Hi everybody, Luck Mullins here, and today I'm doing Brian Cormack Carr's hashtag 31 Days of Tarot. This is actually take two. The first one ran 20 minutes, and I really don't want it to run that long. If I can cut 5 minutes out of this one, I'm going to be happy. I'm also was a little bit frazzled. I'm having kind of a fibro brain day, so slow talking, I'll be stumbling over words. Please forgive. Brian's doing this wonderful thing where he's talking about, did I say what the hashtag was? Tarot Tools Trio is the hashtag. And he's wanting, I hope he's going to do some more videos on his own, but he was talked about doing tarot tools and wanted to condense that down and throw it out to us. So the idea is that if you're rushing out to help a person, or if you're heading out the door, and you can take 3 decks, 3 books, 3 spreads, and a wild card thing. What do you take? So the first thing, I'm just going to go ahead and get the spreads out of the way, because he said if you commit 3 spreads to memory. I have lots and lots of spreads committed to memory, and I'm sorry about that. So I do a 3-card spread. I collect 3-card spreads. So there are just so many 3-card spreads. You know, Maiden, Mother, Crone, Thesis, Antithesis, Synthesis, Raw Material, Process, Final Product. They're just, you know, if you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, you do rock, you do hard place. There's just so many, anything, but everybody who knows me is tired of hearing me say, but anything you can break down into 3s can be a tarot spread. So I have a lot of those. I do a seasonal spread. I do a Celtic cross spread because I've been doing tarot for a long time, and that's kind of what most of us did back in the day. And I do a pentacle spread. I do a 7-card spread. I do some other ones, but those are just the ones coming to the top of my head. So I'm sorry, and I don't, if I ever have to do this, if I ever have to run out of the house, Brian, I'll only do 3 spreads. I'll keep it down. So anyway, the next thing to talk about, I'm going to just kind of do these all in weirdo order. The next thing I'm going to go ahead and talk about is the books, because I just decided to be really honest. I wanted to do, like, you know, oh, if I walked out the door and wanted to do like well-rounded books, you know, take a Mary K. Greer book, you take a book that, you know, on the Rider-Waite Smith system, and but I just decided to be honest, and actually all 3 of the books, if I ran out of the house, all 3 of my books would be Rachel Pollack books. So I would take Tarot Wisdom. Everybody has talked about this book. It's so wonderful. I would really love to see her do, because this is like the best section ever on the Major Arcana, and I actually have in my tabs, I've got 3 tabs for the Major Arcana cards for each of the rows. If anybody does the rows, then works up and down with the triads. But it's the best book ever, I think, dealing with the Major Arcana cards. I wish that she would write, I wish she would do this book again as a volume of 5, because she could even do, like, redo the Major Arcana, do it this big, and then put a book out for each Minor Arcana suit, put a book out for each suit, and do what she did for the major cards, because it's an amazing book. Other people have talked about it, so I won't go on. But yeah, I love her. The next one I would take is Tarot for Magical Times. And when I did the first version of this, video, I did kind of a lousy job talking about, and you know, in the first one too, I had my thing propped up. I had my tablet propped propped up and now it won't prop, so sorry about this. But anyway, Tarot for Magical Times. It's by Rachel Pollack and Johannes Fiebig. I don't know. But the book, I don't see a lot of people talking about the book, but it was put out, I'm sorry, I think in 2012. So there are probably still copies around. It's a U.S. Games book. The book is... there, look at that. It's a reliable guide for times of rapid change. You know what? I feel like I can't see anything better than what's written right here. So I'm sure, hopefully you guys have been reading because I'm going to be done with it now. But the book is broken down. If you do astrology, it's an amazing book. And even if you don't, it's an amazing book. At the end, it's broken down into the houses. And then there are several pages about, like the Libra month, what has weight in life, and they talk about the Empress and the Queen of Swords. They talk about, they put the cards in perspective. And still in Libra is, they talk about a time of reflection and a time of realization. So it's a wonderful book. It's so good. Tarot for Magical Times, Rachel Pollack. And then the last one, Rachel Pollack. And I looked through this book again thinking, you know, if I'm going to take tarot, the wisdom book, maybe I don't really need this. But I looked at this and the information is not the same. The information's different. They go together so beautifully. But 78 Degrees of Wisdom is, it's a standard. It's a classic. I actually used to have this in separate volumes. Back in the day, people, it came in volumes, but I have lost so many books through my life because I loaned them and I don't get them back. So I'm really weird about loaning out my books now because I used to have this, like, I don't know if it was first edition, but it has to be worth more than this one. The information's the same though. So, you know, you get the same in intelligence. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about the decks now. And the decks are, I actually went through this a couple of months ago. I had to run out the door to go to my mom's house. And if I had been asked this more than several months ago, I would have just thought, well, you know, I'm going to take a Thoth, a Marseille, and oh, Rider-Waite. It's like, what am I missing? Rider-Waite-Smith. But when it came right down to it, I found out that what I wanted was a workhorse deck. Deck I could gain comfort or a lighthearted kind of a deck. And I wanted a deck I could go really deep, 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 deep with. So, this deck, this is the Aquarian deck, I'm sure you all know. This is my first deck. It might have been, I don't think it was the first one I trimmed. I was going to say it might have been the first one I trimmed too because my cat had some ideas about the deck. So, to get rid of the damage, one card had to be glued and the rest I just cut off. But, you know, the deck has, I still use it. I still riffle shuffle. The deck has held up wonderfully. So anyway, this was my first deck. This is a workhorse deck. It's also a, I'm kind of putting it into my comfort place this time. And I'll get to why in just a minute. And then I needed a deck to dive deep with. And I think a lot of people see this deck. This is Circle of Life Tarot. And I think a lot of people see this deck as being, oh, it's a very fairy deck. It's a fae deck. And, you know, maybe it is. But if it is, it's that, and look at this, here's a perfect example. It's that serious side of the Fae world. It's that side that will take you deep, 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 whether you're going, into other lands or whether you're going deep, deep, deep inside yourself. Look at that Empress card. It's just, decks don't get much better than this, I think, for delving deep. Because look at this Moon card, isn't it beautiful? I think a lot of people mistakenly think that if you're going to do shadow work, if you're going to delve deep, you need a darker deck. And I think that that might help, because actually my Vertigo deck I would not take out of the house, but if I'm just doing a series of shadow work, I would take maybe a darker deck. But you just get so much information out of this deck, so much about yourself. It just will really open you up in places you didn't know you could be opened up in. So this would be my deep deck. Now, the last deck is kind of it depends. And I'm going to explain why. If I think that I'm going to be back the same day, I would take the Japredes deck. This is a deck that I like because it makes me think. It's a deck that is surprising. It's a deck that's beautiful. I mean, it's just so beautiful, beautiful. Every card I'm picking up is one that, like, when people see the deck, it's a typical card they see. It would be nice if people who aren't familiar with it could see a few of the other cards. Yeah, it's just, I love this deck. I love it, love it, love it. So, but and this is a deck I'm using a lot right now, but if I think that I'm going to be gone for more than a day when I leave my house, I would take the Raven's Prophecy, because this is the one I'm doing my daily draws with. So, and also one of the reasons why it would come down to a choice between this one or the Japredes is because, and I know I've mentioned this before in the Goals Tarot from Ethany's 31-Day Challenge, but I'm wanting to start. Last year was just frazzled with me and tarot decks, because it's that squirrel effect that's being talked about now. Every time I saw a deck, I was digging out into my closet and looking at this deck and looking at that deck, because people talk so beautifully about decks that I own, and sometimes there were things that I hadn't seen in that deck. And so I spent a lot doing that last year. So this year, I'm going to focus, and either this deck or the Japredes deck will finish out the year with me. Even though other decks are coming and going, one of these two decks will finish out the year with me. And which also means that at least for this year, these two decks will probably be private and only for my use. So I didn't want to grab both decks, because if I need to read for somebody else, at least there's a choice of two cards there. Which brings us to my my wild card. And some of you are probably saying, oh, well, Locke, why didn't you just use the other one for your wild card? Sorry about that. That's because I carry a crane bag. But I'm not going to say the crane bag is my wild card, because that would just be mean. Because inside, that's too big of a pushing boundaries, because inside my crane bag is another deck of cards. There are, there's a mini altar, there's a little book of shadows, there's, all the goodies that people keep in the crane bag. But this is what I would take this out of the crane bag. And honestly, if I were running out I would just take the whole crane bag, but for purposes of this and to be a little bit more fair and try to stay within a little bit more within the boundaries, to stay within the spirit of what we've been asked to do. I have a bunch of crystals. I'm sure most of us do have tons and tons of crystals. But this is my healing set. So if I were running out, this would be my wild card. And these are the ones I do. I do like a lot of chakra work with these, and I do crystal healings with these, and they're all in sets of 2, because sometimes, you do the laying on of stones. Some people prefer that. Some people prefer, what you do is you go around the outside of the body, and then, you put the grounding stones at the feet, and the 7th stones up above the head. So they're all in sets of 2, and I know a lot of you are like, oh, that's more than just a chakra set, but there are reasons for that, depending on the healing, depending on what the layout is for. Some of the stones are switched out. If somebody's concerned actually about their physical health, I might use the malachite. Whereas if they're heartbroken, I might go to the Mangano. So that's my wild card, and I kept it as honest as I could. I really wanted to use the whole crane bag, but that's what I did. So those are my answers. I have seen kind of a lot of the videos. I watched more of these than I normally do. Normally I try to get my video out before I watch too many of them, so I'm not influenced. But this has been a lot of fun. Thank you, Brian. I am going to go... Nope, I was going to say I'm going to go watch some more of these, but I'm not. I'm going to work trying to get my 31 Days of Tarot finished. So thank you guys all for watching. Hopefully I'll see you next time, and lots of love to you all.